بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على النبي الكريم وبعد. هجرة عثمان بن عفان رضي الله تعالى عنه. أخرج الإمام البيهقي عن قتادة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال: أول من هاجر إلى الله تبارك وتعالى بأهله عثمان بن عفان. سمعت النضر بن أنس يقول: سمعت أبا حمزة يعني أنسا يقول: خرج عثمان بن عفان ومعه امرأته رقية بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى أرض الحبشة، فأبطأ على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خبرهما، فقدمت امرأة من قريش فقالت: يا محمد قد رأيت ختنك ومعه امرأته. قال: على أي حال رأيتهما؟ قالت: رأيته قد حمل امرأته على حمار من هذه الدبابة وهو يسوقها. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: صحبهما الله تبارك وتعالى، إن عثمان أول من هاجر بعد لوط عليه الصلاة والسلام. كذا ذكره الإمام ابن كثير في البداية، وأخرجه أيضا ابن المبارك عن أنس بمعناه كما في الإصابة، والطبراني عن أنس بمعناه. وفي حديثه: واحتبس على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم خبرهم، فكان يخرج يتوكف عنهم الخبر، فجاءته امرأة فأخبرته. قال الهيثمي: وفيه الحسن بن زياد البرجمي لم أعرفه، وأما بقي رجاله فثقات. انتهى القول. This is a story of again we're talking about hijrah and sacrifices the companion they made for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the story of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Uthman, he is the son-in-law of our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he was also nicknamed Dhun Nurain, mean the one who is too light. Dhun Nurain means the one with two lights. Why they called him Dhun Nurain? Because he married two daughters of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Throughout the history of mankind, no man married two daughters of a prophet than Uthman radiallahu ta'ala. So he was so fortunate, so lucky to marry not one daughter, but two daughters of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, of a prophet. And that's why he had this name called Dhun Nurain. The saddest thing is his marriage. In this is a very sad story about his marriage, because he married Ruqayya, the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and Ruqayya, she died. He then married Kulthum, and Kulthum also died as well. Both of them passed away. And he had, a very tough time, in the sense that two of the daughters that he was married to, they both passed away. But here's the interesting part, before I even go to the transition. Normally what happens in our community is a very miskin admi, very poor person, very unfortunate person. He's a, horrible person. People, they say stuff, This guy, one wife he had, she died. He married another one, she died. That person is a bad luck person. That's how the community they see, right? That's what the Prophet of Allah said: if I had a third daughter, I would give it to Uthman. He just completely eradicated this whole idea. Sometimes when you marry, or marriage doesn't go well, so some people, they end up getting divorced. And people, they say that it's your bad luck. The man is bad, the woman is bad, and they are condemned in the community. This wasn't at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The worst community is that they don't look after their own. If you find a sister, his widow, for example, or she is divorced, etc., we should try to get her married. This is the job of everyone in the community. But if you, similarly for a brother that is looking to find a wife, and we should try to help. That's how the Sahabah's time were. What we do in our community, Allah forgive us, we look for fault because there's something wrong why he's not married. There's something wrong why she's not married. Or there's something wrong why his wife left him. People talk like that. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gave, what he said? He said, I know I gave two of my daughters to Uthman, but if I had a third and available, I would give it to Uthman, because he's a good son-in-law. He's a good son-in-law. Everything else happens by the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do sabr. We don't know the wisdom behind it. This was very important. Imam al-Bayhaqi reports from the authority of Qatada, may Allah be pleased with him, that the very first person to migrate towards Habasha was Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, with his family. Another Ibn Anas, he says, I heard Abu Hamza, meaning Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, I heard Anas radiallahu anhu said that when Uthman ibn Affan, he migrated with his wife Ruqayya, the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to the land of Habasha. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not hear about their news, whether they have reached the destination they made it, because the traveling was very difficult, especially when you are running away from Quraysh. They have people on the outgo, looking out. If they find somebody, not only going to bring them back, they will actually kill them. So the Prophet ﷺ was very worried because they have to cross the sea. To get to Habasha, you have to cross the sea. And it's very difficult to cross the sea because the sea journey, the Prophet ﷺ, he did not like the sea journey as well. He was very scared. Whenever someone used to tell him that, "Oh, Prophet, I need to migrate or go somewhere, but I have to cross the sea," the Prophet ﷺ used to be very worried about him. He was really scared. He did not like. That's why Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala and Umar radiallahu ta'ala in the Khilafah time, Sahabah, they asked for journeys through the sea. He said that if you can't avoid, please avoid it, because I didn't hear the Prophet of Allah giving anyone permission. Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he was the very first person to have Islamic Navy. And he got permission from Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Uthman was also hesitant, but then at the end, then he said that, go ahead. So from this you can understand, it was a very difficult journey because the boats were not really modern that we have now. It's very difficult. Most of the boats is to sink, because they were not properly done. So the Prophet ﷺ was very worried. What happened to the Sahaba? Have they made it? He was especially worried about Uthman and his daughter. It's a father love for his daughter. So he said that he was waited, but he did not find any information. Suddenly, a lady from Quraysh, she said, "Muhammad, I saw your son-in-law." He's talking about Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. I saw him. He said, "I saw your son-in-law and his wife was with him." The Prophet ﷺ said, "How did you see them? How did you see them? In what condition did you find them?" He said, "I saw him that he was walking." Ya Rab, Uthman. This is the migration. He was walking, and his wife was on a donkey, and the donkey was very weak, and he was pulling the donkey, and saw him migrating like that. The Prophet ﷺ said, "May Allah be with them. Sahibahum Allah, may Allah be with them." And he praised Uthman. So his love for his wife and dedication. That's the daughter of Rasulullah ﷺ. So much khidmah that he's doing. He said that, you know what? Uthman was the very first person to migrate in this manner of traveling with his wife after Sayyidina Lut alayhi salatu wasalam. He resembled his migration like the migration of Sayyidina Lut alayhi salatu wasalam. And this hadith is mentioned by Imam Ibn Kathir in al-Bidayah with the chain of transmission without making any comment after it. Imam Ibn al-Mubarak also mentioned this as well, and Ibn Hajar in his Isaba, Imam Tabrani and others. And there are some technical details in the chain of transmission mentioned here as well. I'll quickly mention this one, that Imam al-Haythami rahimahullah ta'ala said that there is a narrator whose details of authenticity we do not know. So which basically means that we cannot say the story is very authentic. Okay, we're going to say that the narration is very popular. Uthman did migrate and Ruqayya did go. The stories, but the chain of transmission, we have to be very honest. And they said that everybody else in the chain of transmissions are authentic except for one individual. And when we have something like that, then we have to say that the hadith, the whole story becomes a question mark. Basically, becomes like we cannot say that this is 100% authentic. That when the Prophet of Allah said this. The story is authentic, but the Prophet of Allah is saying that Uthman was the very first to migrate in this manner after Lut alayhi salam. This part becomes, we cannot say the Prophet of Allah said this with 100% authenticity. We're going to say that this is what is reported. This is what one narrator does to a hadith. So we need to understand the hadith technicalities, how difficult. One person, because the muhaddithin, they researched him, they could not find anything authenticity about him. Is he reliable? Is he not? They don't know. That creates a question mark. So therefore, the hadith becomes weak. When a hadith becomes weak, we have to be very careful. Okay, I'm mentioning all this so that we need to be very careful. We become very careful. We cannot narrate this with conviction, saying that this is what the Prophet of Allah says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have to say it's been reported with a weak chain of transmission. Okay, so much work our scholars have done. So we realize every individual been researched. Who are they? What do they do? Where do they live? What kind of reports we find? Anyway, the reason why I read this story here is for the sake of education. At the same time, to talk about Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that what kind of individual he was. Not only he was a good son-in-law, he was praised by the best person, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And look how much khidmah he's doing to his wife. Okay, he was doing khidmah to his wife as well. And men migrating, mashallah, it could be easier. Just on your own if you migrate. Because when you travel with your family, it becomes extra difficult. You have to take a lot of care. You have to make sure that they have enough rest as well. Once the Prophet ﷺ was traveling, and he saw a man called Anjasha. He was an Abyssinian person, and he's from Habasha himself. And he had a beautiful voice. His voice is very nice, sweet voice. And he was singing to the camel. So basically a horse or a camel, and behind it was a carriage. So when he used to sing to the horses or to the camels or donkeys, whatever, yes, and they used to get really excited, the animals, so they run fast. Okay, which caused the carriage, very difficult because it's bouncing, because the path is not like we have nowadays, mashallah. The Kanhol road is so smooth. We're talking about rough roads, rough path. And so he's singing, the camels get excited. He's singing, the horses, they get excited. And they start moving so fast, it caused the carriage to bounce. And there's a lot of women we're traveling. The Prophet ﷺ, he didn't like that. If he's men, it's okay because they're macho, they're strong, etc. The Prophet of Allah had extra. When you travel with the women, take extra care. He said, "Ruwaydaka ya anjasha, rifqan bil qawarir." Oh, anjasha, calm down, relax. I know you got a beautiful voice. Stop singing to the camels or the horses. Relax. Please take it easy with fragile thing. Qawarir is from the word qarura. Qarura means like a glass bottle. The Arab, they call this qarura. So when you have glass, they write fragile, extra care, so that the Amazon delivery guy doesn't just chuck it, so he leaves it properly or he gives it to you. The Prophet of Allah said, they are like, they're very fragile, take it easy, don't cause them any hardship. And then Anjasa, he started to take extra care. This is the teaching of our Prophet ﷺ, that when you travel with your family members, especially with your, with the women in your company, your daughters, your sisters, your mothers, take extra care. That's how our Prophet of Allah ﷺ was. And the last hadith before I end, the Prophet of Allah said, "Istawsu bin nisa'i khayra." Treat the women gently and nicely. Okay? This was how our Prophet of Allah was sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq, inshaAllah. Ta'ala quli qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah. Subhanallah bihamdi subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Shada la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.